he just learned how to catch a pigeon and kill it. It was pretty gory yesterday, wasn't it? So we'll find out what happens next with Addy. We haven't actually got much of the book left now, which is quite exciting. I think Mum likes the pigeon meat. She had started leaving bits of food on her plate that she didn't like, but she never leaves any pigeon. I've been out of the flat so much in the day, collecting food or helping catch pigeons, that when one day I come back in the morning, I'm surprised to find her standing at the big windows in the sitting room. I go up to stand beside her. I can see my scrapbook is open on the table, not where I left it, tucked under my pillow, so I guess Mum must have been reading it. It's been left open on the page where I wrote, "How to kill and prepare a pigeon, instructions and illustrations." Neither of us speak. We just stand there looking out. Everything outside has grown bigger and lusher and greener. The sun lights up the bluches, making them stand out. They are everywhere. Mum speaks first. Her voice sounds a little bit raspy, and she has to clear her throat a few times before she can speak clearly. "Why is our building still standing?" she says in a small voice. I try to explain about the bluches and the salt and the spores which aren't landing higher up on the building, and that's why we've been lucky with the weather, because there hasn't been any rain for a long time, so the salt hasn't been washed away. I realise I sound a little bit like Obi, that I'm saying everything just like he would do. I finish off by saying that if we could work it out about the salt stopping them, then someone else will too, and that's when they'll come and rescue us. "How do you know all of this?" she asks. There's so much to tell Mum, and I don't know where to start. Should I tell her about the other day when I went out in the middle of all the bluches and one of them burst all over me and I thought I was going to die? Or perhaps I should start on the day when I first met Obi and Dory and we all sat down together around the little red and white checked table and ate pigeon, even though I didn't know that's what it was at the time. Or maybe I should go right back and talk about the day when they closed the school and how I never said goodbye to Gaia and Michael's mum tried to take me with her, so I barricaded the front door shut. All this time, Mum's been sleeping or sitting in her room, hiding herself away. I wonder if I look different to her. Older, taller perhaps. Is there something to show for everything I've seen and done since we've been trapped in the tower? Mum looks just the same to me, except that her hair is a little longer. She's got the same kind of face and brown eyes that look like they are smiling. It's like nothing much has changed because she hasn't been doing anything different than she was before the bluches came. She hasn't stood in front of me and in front of one and seen how tall and silvery it is. She's never spoken to Obi or Dory. She hasn't seen Ben crying in front of her. She's just the same. She hasn't changed. Have you ever looked at someone for so long it seems like their face starts to change right in front of you? Their eyes might get smaller, or their mouths might seem larger, or their nose looks like it's growing outwards somehow. That's what happens when I'm trying to answer Mum that day. Her face seems to go all funny and distorted, and I forget it's Mum I'm looking at. It's just pieces of someone's face. It could be anyone. "What's happened, Addy?" she says. "Are there many of us left?" It's a weird feeling that comes over me then, because really this is what I wanted Mum to do from the very beginning, and now that she's awake, standing in front of me and asking questions, I feel sort of strange. Mostly I'm glad, because it's much better than her just being asleep all the time. But I also feel something else too, something a lot like anger. I remember the time before Mum stopped leaving the flat. I have a memory of us sitting on the grass outside together, and though I can't remember where we were or what we were doing, I know that we were happy. In my head, it was a sunny day. I remember Mum walking me to school, and I can picture us going to the shops together and eating in a restaurant like other people do sometimes. But there's too many other memories clouding out the good ones from before. Memories of her sleeping in her bed, her back to me, or me taking out empty plates and cups from her bedroom and refilling them again. That's what I think of mostly when I think about Mum. I say something that I used to imagine saying all the time, so much that I stopped thinking it a long time ago. I say, if you come out of the flat with me, I'll tell you what happened. If you come out. If. Mum looks at me hard for a moment or two. "All right, Addy," she says, and it's as simple as that. I open the front door and she peeks her head out of the doorway and looks down the corridor, and then she walks right through it. She follows me down the stairs. She's slower than I am, and I have to keep stopping so she can catch up. We stop and look out the windows at each floor. It's all gone. It's all gone, Mum keeps saying over and over. Can you believe, Addy? It's all gone. We start playing a little game. It's Mum's idea. We close our eyes and pretend that everything is how it was before and say out loud that we can see. Mum says, I can see a plane going over in the sky. And I say, I can see the tops of the buses with numbers on them. And Mum says, I can see the city. And then Mum counts down from 3 and we open our eyes. Everything we saw with our eyes closed vanishes and is replaced by the silvers of the blues and the greens of the plants and the trees. We play it a few times, and each time it surprises me when I open my eyes. Mum's making me remember what it used to be like. I think I'd forgotten about it a little bit. We get to Dory's front door, and I knock on it, which seems a bit odd because usually I just walk in and call out to her, but it feels different with Mum with me. I hear Dory's footsteps come to the door, and then she opens it with a big smile. Come in, she says. It's lovely to see you. She bustles us into the sitting room, and in no time at all we are all sitting down with cups of hot tea in our hands, chatting away as if we've always done this. Dory and Mum talk about everything that has happened and about how Obi's keeping us safe, not only with the salt he puts down, but with the water that he rations out. Mum asks Dory if she thinks we'll be rescued soon. There's no doubt, dear, Dory says. No doubt. Who knows? They might be on their way right this minute. And she winks at me. I tell Mum a bit about the pigeons that we've been catching and how I can do it now. Dory is just saying, you have a fine young man there, when quite suddenly, Mum puts her cup down on the table so it makes a bit of a rattle and says that she'd better be getting back upstairs. She gets up to leave too quickly and she bangs her knee on the table. She looks like she might be sick or something. Her face has lost its colour. She doesn't wait for me to come with her. She walks straight out of Dory's flat without saying goodbye. My ears feel hot and red, and I don't know where to look. I hope Dory likes Mum, even though she left me suddenly and didn't say thanks for the tea or anything. When I finally look up, Dory's right at me, looking right at me, and she says in a soft voice, You do understand, don't you, Addie, that I think your Mum's a brave woman. I hope she comes to visit again if she'd like to. I don't know how to answer Dory, because I'm not sure how to tell her that I don't think Mum will ever come downstairs again.